What are you gonna do with your free will? The Krill B-plot from Happy Feet 2 challenges us to reconsider our place in the world, daring us to break the mold and swim against the current in pursuit of meaning and our purpose in life. A quick recap since the movie came out so long ago. The B-plot in Happy Feet 2 follows a pair of krill named Will and Bill as they leave the swarm and venture into the world unknown to them. This is mostly Will's idea, but his friend Bill also follows him reluctantly. Mostly out of loyalty, I would say, but also love for his friend and not wanting to leave him alone. But I'll also touch on this later, I think because Will, for the most part, is Bill's entire world within the swarm. Will is in search of a more meaningful existence outside of the swarm, and when they leave, he realizes they're actually at the bottom of the food chain. Their whole existence is just to be feed for other animals. He immediately dreams of moving up the food chain and becoming a predator. Meanwhile, Bill lacks these aspirations and is happy just being feed for other animals, citing that this is their born purpose. Along the way, they face numerous dangers, including run-ins with real predators, and are also swept far away from where they began by currents. Will and Bill's journey highlights some of the struggles that we face when we're trying to break the mold and swim against the current and try to just live our own lives. I didn't expect the B-plot from this film to challenge me in this way. I think it's really easy to accept our normalcy and mundanity even though we have a lot of aspirations in our lives because of the potential fear for failure and also the difficulty that comes along with it and the consequences that might come with failing. Not only that, I think there is a societal pressure to fit in, and sometimes that pressure makes us not want to stick out. Even though we want to live the way that we want to live and express ourselves the way that we want to express ourselves, sometimes we actually end up suppressing that out of fear of judgment. There are a few aspects of this journey I want to focus on and talk about in this video. The first one being the balance between the optimist and the pessimist, and the delusional and the realist. The next point I want to talk about is the struggle, and the last one is the cost of aspirations. The optimist and the pessimist and the delusional and the realist is embodied by Will and Bill respectively. Unironically, I think being delusional or having some delusions is actually really important when chasing your aspirations. And the reason I say this is because sometimes our dreams are so big, and because they're so big, without doubt, we will face hardships along the way that will hinder our progress. And it's really easy to hit those roadblocks and just feel overwhelmed and want to give up. And very slowly, you'll have the creeping thought of, maybe this isn't for me, or maybe this is a little too hard, or maybe I'm dreaming too big. Sometimes it's true, the dreams are too big, but that isn't reason to stop though. Like, if you think about it, I want to be a filmmaker, or I want to be a singer or something like that. It is a crazy dream. It's a really crazy dream. How many people get to become filmmakers, or how many people become big singers that top charts and stuff like that? Those are all true. However, they still exist, and those people didn't get there because it was easy. They had to work really hard and face a lot of struggles. And the truth is, not everybody is going to make it, but the people that did make it, you can bet that they really believed in their dream despite all the hardships, despite everybody telling them that their dreams are unrealistic, and honestly probably are unrealistic. But despite that, they were delusional enough to believe in themselves, and eventually their dream paid off. That being said, I'm not saying that we should be delusional all the way to the very, very, very end and past the end. Sometimes doors do close, and that's where the balance between being delusional and realistic is important. And there is a really interesting point to be made about perspective here. Will is constantly caught in events with consequences that he didn't actually cause. For example, there's a scene where he's trying to hunt, and he's trying to hunt this big seal, and the seal is actually being taunted by a penguin and ends up chasing the penguin instead of waking up from Bill's attack. And maybe he's being delusional, or maybe he just doesn't know. But I wonder, does it matter that he actually wasn't the cause? In his mind, in his lived experience, he's still happy pursuing his dream. Is it better to live in ignorance and be happy, or to know and be unhappy? To add, Will and Bill experience the same events as they travel through the unknown world. However, Will and Bill's experiences are completely different. To Bill, everything that they've been going through is wildly traumatic, whereas for Will, He's having the time of his life. You ever wonder how some people are so happy despite their circumstances? I once asked a coworker if they were feeling anxious about the future or if they were ever worried about the future, and they replied, things always work out, things are going to work out, and things are going to continue to work out for him. And I thought, how could they know? But the truth is, they can't know. What's going to happen is largely out of their hands, outside of what they can do to prepare. But if they have prepared, there's nothing more they can do. And the truth is, things might not actually work out for them, but it doesn't really matter for the present, and it's not worth ruining the present worrying about the future when it's already out of your hands. And I think this relates back to Will and Bill in the sense that their present is the same, but the way that they view the present is completely different, and that completely shapes their quality of life, I guess, and how they're living and whether or not they're enjoying the present. Because it's so easy to let anxiety or negativity weigh down the present, and honestly, that's just a net loss, because you're going to have a negative present experience now, regardless of whether or not things are going to work out in the future. And when you're in the future, you're going to have more things in the further future to worry about. Life is out of our control. All we can do is roll with the punches. We can stay where it's comfortable and presumably safe, or we can venture into the unknown and open ourselves to the possibility of who knows? Sure, swimming against the current doesn't guarantee that we'll find what we're looking for, but is that really what matters the most? I do also want to point out that Bill kind of boxes in Will as much as Bill cares about Will. Bill constantly reminds Will that he's just a krill and that he can't just do whatever he wants to do or achieve what it is that he wants to achieve, in this case becoming a predator. And honestly, Bill might be right. Again, it's this dichotomy of optimism and pessimism and being delusional and realistic. Of course, there's a fine balance between the two, and it's not good to always be surrounded by yes men and people that agree with you, but at the same time, you do need a support group that's very honest and real with you and your ideas. Sometimes you really do need a reality check, but the constant reminder that we can't do what it is that we want to do is also very negatively impactful. There's a very abstract fine line, because if you have a vision, it's very hard for other people to see your vision as well. So we have to discern within ourselves whether or not the advice or encouragement or the support or negativity that we're receiving is actually coming from a good place, and not just coming from a good place, but also whether or not if it has merit. The struggle. The film plays off Will's struggles as comic relief, but there's actually something very real underneath all that. Breaking the mold in and of itself is hard enough. You not only have to break through your psychological inhibitors, which can be very debilitating already, but you actually have to undertake the very tumultuous journey and actually do the thing. And I'm somewhat confident in saying, because the struggle is part of the journey, therefore, struggle is important. And I'll admit for myself that I don't enjoy struggle, and I used to see it as a bad thing, but I'm trying to see it more as a neutral thing now. And if I were to be honest with myself, I would admit that struggle is oftentimes a powerful catalyst for personal growth. And I don't know if this is necessarily the case, but I do sometimes wonder if personal growth is actually what matters the most. It's almost less so about the end goal itself, but the personal journey and growth that one undertakes and experiences. It's good to have an end goal, but sometimes what's meant for us hasn't even crossed our mind yet. We aren't even aware of what's meant for us. We don't know where we're going to end up, but that isn't reason to not embark on the journey. The cost of aspirations. Sometimes pursuing your dreams and aspirations in life, or just living the way that you want to live, comes with its own cost. In the film, one of these costs is the interpersonal relationship between Will and Bill. At some point during the film, Will initiates to Bill that they should separate and go their own ways. I think Will kind of comes to the realization that Bill is kind of holding him down. It seems kind of cruel on Will's end, but I don't know if I can fault him for that. Sometimes in life, our paths with our friends just begin to diverge, and that's just life. And to go back to the point I made earlier, it is kind of true that Bill boxes in Will for a lot of the film. He's again constantly reminding Will that he can't be a predator or he can't do the things that Will wants to do. And I think this does end up diminishing Will's quality of life. A cautionary tale, on the flip side, even though Will holds the spotlight in the film, I actually feel bad for Bill's character. There's actually quite a bit to unpack there too. Bill is caught up in his friend's dream, and because of that, he doesn't dare to dream himself. Of course, I'm sure there's personal reasons within Bill's character that stops him from dreaming, and it might be some kind of a cage that he puts himself in terms of what he can and cannot be. Regardless, I think his loyalty and being tethered with Will actually hurts his personal development and experience of life. He allows Will's decision making to affect his own life, and to no fault of Will's. And it's important to remember that it's our own responsibility to take charge of our own lives and also to live our own lives and not be caught up in somebody else's dream. And of course, I think it's important to support your friends. And I know this might sound bad, but I don't think it should ever overcome our own pursuit of meaning or our own adventure in life. And maybe this sounds counterintuitive, but if Bill really wanted to just be a krill and be at the bottom of the food chain, and that's what he finds satisfying in life, that's what he should go for. And I don't think everybody needs to swim against the current the same way that Will does. I think everybody should live the way that they want to live, and the quote-unquote normalcy is okay as well. At the same time, Will is so deep within his vision and his journey that he doesn't realize that he's pushing away Bill. And again, there's a healthy balance between the two, and that balance and that line in between is very abstract, and it's something we're going to have to figure out ourselves through our own experiences and with the people around us. Ironically, after Will and Bill separate in the film, things start to go downhill for Will. He doesn't experience the catastrophic or dangerous events the same way he did with Bill. For some reason, removing the realistic anchor in his life, which was Bill, makes him more realistic actually. And he starts to see the events that he's in for the dangers that they actually are. And despite what I said about losing friends along the way, it's also an important reminder that life is to be experienced with people, and sometimes your friends really make a difference, and sometimes it's not worth losing those relationships for something that you're pursuing. Despite what I said before. And again, everything is so abstract, and there's so many things that we need to decide for ourselves. There's no clear-cut way to live life and pursue our dreams. I would pose the question, if I think about pursuing my dreams and I guess achieving what it is that I want to do, but at the cost of my best friend, I don't know if I would do that. I actually, you know what? I know definitively that I wouldn't want those dreams. I would rather have a friend. And again, this highlights the importance of the journey instead of the end goal. And perhaps on a more hopeful note, I would like to believe that the people that are meant to stay in your life will stay in your life. In kind of a picture perfect way, after Will and Bill are separated, it does seem like Bill finds his place in life, or at least has a better understanding of himself. When they do reunite, there's a new spark in him, you can tell. And I think he actually grows to see Will's perspective. And eventually, Will also sees Bill's perspective. And they find a nice balance in the middle. Although Will persisted, he doesn't become the predator that he hoped to be. More than that, he kind of ends up where he started, at least physically. He's back with the swarm, or the swarm is back with him. But he's changed now. I would like to think that Will finally realizes that it's not about the end goal of becoming a predator that mattered to him, but it was about just growth and experiencing the world outside so that he could make better decisions about who he wanted to be, and also reuniting with his friend, which he realizes now is very important. He shouldn't have separated with his friend, and that's what mattered to him. Despite everything Will and Bill have gone through, and Will's supposed failure in becoming a predator, Bill tells Will that he's changed the world. Will helps Bill find his individuality, and despite there being a trillion of them, he realizes that they each have their own individual meanings and purpose in life and their own journey. Even if Will never achieves his dream of becoming a predator, he does help his friend Bill come to a very important realization, and I think that's more valuable actually. Their story is oddly relatable, and I say oddly because they're krill. I still find myself in kind of a transitory stage in my life. I feel like I decided to pursue what it was that I wanted to pursue too late, and I'm paying the price for that. But I would like to believe that it's never too late, and if anyone's watching, I would like to think that it's not too late for any of us. I'm really grateful that I have friends that I can experience and go through life with, the good and the bad. I'm also grateful that whatever we pursue, I know we won't lose sight of our friendship, and I hope we don't. That has made trying to figure out my place in the world and what I want to do much more pleasant. Life is not about what we achieve, but the journey, and we need to undertake that journey. So one more time, what are you going to do with your free will? Thank you for watching another video. If you've made it this far, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. I hope that you will have a very fruitful journey in life and that everything will work out the way that it's supposed to. Even though times are tough, I hope that you take care of yourself. And yeah, that's it for today's video.